Hi, and on Flickering Dreams this week, I'm joined by Emma Sewell, and we're going to be looking at the following films. Talk to Me, a low-budget Australian horror shocker. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in Mutant Mayhem, an animated film. And The Beanie Bubble on Apple TV. Also in Any Other Business, I'm going to be looking at the performance of the major summer blockbuster films. And Emma gets very excited about a certain shark movie coming out at the end of the week. This is Flickering Dreams. Right, well, welcome to Flickering Dreams this week. There's only the two of us, so we have room to stretch. Not that much, but stretch a little bit to fit the screen. It's Emma and myself this week, since Scott and Andy are otherwise engaged with holidays and various things. And it's going to be a slightly shorter one this week because we've only got 3 films to review, which is something, given that the SAG-AFTRA strike is on, is something that maybe we need to get a little bit used to. Because
sadly, yes.
I suspect new films will be in a little short supply over the next 12 to 18 months, depending on how long this lasts. But there we go, we'll see. So we're going to start this week with a new film out of Australia called Talk to Me. And in this film, a teenager called Mia, who's recently lost her mother, gets involved in a seance-type event involving a dismembered hand. Now, the golden rule here is that you must let go of the hand within 90 seconds. What could go wrong? Here's a clip.
Who's that?
I'll do it.
Cannot go for more than 90 seconds. Am I clear?
What happens after 90 seconds?
Don't want to stay.
I saw this as a Cineworld secret screening where you don't know what the film is going to be before it starts. And as often happens at this event, if it turns out it's a horror film, which indeed it was at this point, there tends to be a mass exodus to the door, like wildebeest herding across a river in the plains of Africa. And indeed, that's exactly what happened. We must have lost about 40 or 50 people out of my screening, I think, when it came up and said, this is what the film is. And it says something about the horror film, actually, that they were not the last people to leave, because we did actually have a number of defections in our particular screen as the film went on, of which more later. And I have to say that in a world of fairly bland and predictable horror movies, this Australian offering really stands out as something a bit different. It was directed by 2 YouTube stars called the Philippou brothers, who came up before the film started, by the way, as a little promo saying, thanks for coming to see our film. And they were really young and loud and annoying, as teenagers can be, as in, thanks for coming to see our film, folks. Wow, it's going to be great, And I thought, oh my God, if this is what the promo is, what's the film going to be like? So I had a bit of a downer on the film before it started, I have to say. And I thought it started really poorly. Before we actually get into the proper events of the film, there's kind of a prequel bit set in a party, which didn't impress me at all. And there was lots of effing and blinding in the dialogue, which I thought was unnecessary for the film. The film didn't actually go on in that vein. I have to say, it's just the beginning. But then we get into this seance type event with the teenagers, and they grab the hand and say, talk to me. And that's where, for me, the film really took off. The girl who plays Mia is Sophie Wilde, who I had a little look at the Philippou brothers YouTube channel, whose name I can't remember at the moment, but they do kind of comedy horror films, and they're quite entertaining. And I'm sure in a superhero parody film, I saw Sophie Wilde as one of the participants. So I think she's clearly, well, if it is her, and I'm not sure it was, then she's clearly quite a close friend to these two brothers. And I have to say, she gave absolutely cracking performance in this film. Would you agree, Emma, with that?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to stay on the fence until.
You're going to stay on the fence, okay? I thought Sophie Wilde. I thought this was a really superb performance by her. I think she absolutely carried the film, as it's one of her first feature films. It may even be her debut feature film, as it was these two directors. I thought it was great. But there are some seriously icky moments in this horror film for horror lovers, particularly one set in a hospital shower room, which caused a number of the other people in the audience who hadn't left early on to get up and leave and said, "This isn't for me, dear," type of thing, as various couples headed for the door at that point. I think it's a fresh approach to horror, and I think it's a teen-focused approach to horror in that every time anything happens, all of the phones come out. Everybody's videoing it, right? They get their phones out and say, right, I've got to get this on film as in the most important thing. And I really like that. And I particularly like the ending, which was both dark and very surprising and very clever, I thought, the way that the film actually ended. So I'm going to hand it over to you now, Emma, because I think you were more on the fence on this one than I was.
I agree with you on a lot of points. Like that opening, like to announce the film, that just annoyed me. I just don't think it was executed very well.
No.
And just from the off, like you say, a lot of people got up and left when the title card came up. A lot of people left after that first scene. I can't blame them if you don't like that sort of thing. This film only gets worse for that. So, and I was surprised how visually violent it was, but in the most unexpected ways. Like you say, that shower scene was particularly horrendous.
It was icky, yeah.
All of the scenes where I was sitting there and I like gratuitous violence, but this is a bit much.
But they were quite sparing in their use of jump scares, weren't they, though? There weren't very many jump scares in the thing at all. So when they did drop them in, they were very effective.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of it. Like, you always see that possessed hand come up in, lots of different things. And so I liked what they'd done with it here. And I like that it's a mystery. Like, we never really know what it is, where it's come from, anything like that. And I think, although I love an origin story, I actually think that works really well for this. Acting, I thought, was fine, generally, overall. I thought that the young lad, who obviously has some harrowing scenes, I thought he was very good. Yeah,
the young lad is Joe Bird, who plays him, and he does very well. And he reminded me very much of the young lad in The Pope's Exorcist of a couple of months ago, who delights by the name of Peter de Souza Fenohini. But he was very good at as the kind of possessed young lad, and I got that reminder when I actually saw this young man in it. But they're very effective indeed. Yeah.
I mean, there are plot holes, but ultimately, I think it almost lost its way as we got to the very ending. But that ending, although I personally thought it was very predictable what was about to happen, I really enjoyed the way they did it.
Okay, I didn't see that coming, but I say things are only predictable if you can predict them, aren't they? Yeah.
But I mean, me and A24 have a very rough history. I either absolutely love their films or I hate them. There's never usually an in-between, and this is the first film of theirs. I'm very much in the middle. It's not a love or hate. Could have been slightly better, but still very enjoyable.
Right, because I was looking at their YouTube channel, as I say, and if you search for the Philippou brothers, and they've created a film called So We Made a Horror Movie about the making of the film and them taking it to the Sundance Festival, and at the Sundance Festival getting signed by A24 to distribute it. And they're loud and annoying in this video as well, but there is no hiding the utter delight of these young people who made this film for £4.5 million. And sorry, $4.5 million, and it's already made $10 million after 3 days of release at the time of recording this. So it's quite nice seeing the inside of that story. Scores on the doors for this, Emma?
I am going to give it a 6 out of 10.
6. And I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 because I think it's something special. So that gives us a Flickering Dreams score of 7 out of 10, which is borderline, but it is definitely a 2 thumbs up. Okay, we're going to move on now to another film that got released this week, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, which is a bit of a mouthful. Emma, do you want to introduce that?
Sure. 4 turtle brothers have been hidden from the world above them by their father, and they really want to join in, find out if people will accept them, and they decide the way to do that is to do good for the people and fight against a big organised crime family running riot in their city. Here's a clip.
Master Splinter has given us a very important mission for tonight. The target is across the street. We must use stealth and cunning to infiltrate the human world and retrieve Go-Gurt.
Okay, Batman.
Dude, what? I'm just trying to hype you guys up, okay?
Give me that list, okay? What else are we getting? 4 quarts of non-fat milk, ice cream, fruits and veggies, and a party-sized bag of Cool Ranch Doritos.
I like cheese
He was
puffs.
very specific about the party size. He underlined it twice.
Okay, do you want to lead off on your views on this one, Emma?
Sure. I mean, spoilers for my score that's coming up, but I genuinely did not expect it to be as good as it was. It's an animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film. I was like, yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be amusing. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. And I thought at the very beginning when it started and the look of it, and I was like, oh, they're just trying to copy Spider-Verse, quite funky graphics.
Yeah.
But it really quickly pulled me in, and I absolutely loved the way it looked. Particularly, like right near the beginning, there's a scene where there's a swinging light bulb, and it's like to make it look flickering. It was just as simple as like you could see the squiggle of colour going in different directions, and I was just like baffled by how they'd managed to use this kind of sketchy looking technique to do things like that. I thought
it does look at points as if it's been scribbled on a piece of paper by a
Exactly.
preschooler with a felt tip pen, doesn't it? A clever preschooler, but
but as we got further in, I actually said to the friend I went with afterwards, I was like, was that just illustrated, or was it like claymation as well? Because at some points I looked at it and I was like, that actually looks like it's, I'm getting Wallace and Gromit vibes, that these are little plasticine models. I thought that the illustration and the graphics were just incredible. And actually, although when I saw Spider-Verse for the first time, like that wowed me, I preferred this style of animation purely because it felt more natural. Like, you got into a kid's colouring supplies and, got out the crayons and the colouring pencils, and it was all a lot softer. So all the action scenes were actually much nicer to watch visually. I think this iteration of them is much more teenagery than I would say any of the previous ones. Like, they actually felt like kids.
they actually spoke like teenagers, didn't they?
Yeah, and
Which was part of my problem with it, that teenagers yapping on. I mean, we were back to the Philippou brothers again, right? But teenagers yapping on at each other and this banter that goes on between them. Oh, I found that very tiresome, I'm afraid. I didn't find that funny.
Yeah, a little bit too long, some of the scenes that had that.
Yeah.
But I just really enjoyed it. Like, and the trouble was, like, I should have looked at the cast list before I went in because I had forgotten from the trailer who was in it. So I spent so many times going, "Oh my god, I recognise that voice. Who is it?"
Yeah. I mean, there's some genius casting, isn't there? Like Ice Cube as the killer mutant fly thing, and there's who else is there? There's Rose Byrne as one of the characters, and there's Paul Rudd in there.
I had completely forgotten it was Paul Rudd, and like afterwards, I could just hear it. I was like, "Yes, okay." Although I hate when films like drop, "Ooh, there could be another film," I really enjoyed the mid-credit scene.
Yeah, that was a quite extensive mid-credit scene, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it's quite good. Yeah.
I thought it
that was Maya Rudolph was the lady who played the somewhat strange, villainous person behind the scenes. Yeah. I mean, I think, as I said a few weeks back, I think Across the Spider-Verse is going to win the animation Oscar next year, or it should do, because it was truly innovative in terms of its styling and its multiple different styles it kind of implemented. This is almost a single style. There is a bit where they kind of do a flashback where they go to a different kind of even blockier. They go from felt tips to crayon, right, at one point. And the animation I thought was really, really good for a film of this type. I mean, it's very impressive. But I didn't think it quite got that same innovation of Spider-Verse did. But that was just my view. I say I found the banter between the turtles irritating and a bit banal at times. But overall, I mean, this is done by Seth Rogan, the permanent teenager, as the trailer kept saying. And there are some clever jokes in there which are aimed at the adults in the audience, thinking of the poor mothers and fathers taking their little Johnnies and Janes along to the cinema to see this during the summer, which my grandkids will be doing tomorrow. So I may, at this point, if I get the chance to interview them like I did last week, ask for their opinion and their scores. Here it is, if it is. So that's their view, if it was. And we're making this up as we go along. But the jokes in there aimed at the adults, unlike Barbie, which it was all side jokes. It was an adult film which kids could kind of not get. This is really, I think, a film that my grandkids are going to enjoy when they go and see it tomorrow at the cinema. And I think the adult jokes are in there to add spice and a bit of laughter to the adults who are actually accompanying them, rather than kind of the other way around. So I think it works on that basis. So yeah, I went in like you thinking, oh God, this could be an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes, which I never get back again. But it was reasonably entertaining. I mean, it wasn't particularly my cup of tea, but I'm not the target audience. So in terms of scores on the doors, I've given this one a 6 out of 10 for me seeing it, but in anticipation of what the grandkids are going to say, for the target audience, I think it's an 8 out of 10. So I'm going to take the average of that and say, let's give it a 7 out of 10.
Fantastic. I like how the scoring's working today.
Yeah.
So now this is where I become problematic, because I don't feel like I can give this a 10 out of 10 because, well, like you say, it's not for everyone. But I came out and we were, like, my friends and I were discussing this, and there was nothing in it that I found so annoying or so offensive that made me want to take away even a half point from it. And I've been mulling this over all day in preparation for this.
Come on!
I'm going to have to give it a 10. I genuinely did
not... I used my 10 card in Oppenheimer last week. You've used it surprisingly for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles this week.
I am surprised
that's
too.
Fair game. I think like the golden buzzer in Britain's Got Talent, we should only be allowed 110 per season, right? Okay, right. So that's a 7 out of 10 and a 10 out of 10, 17.5. That gives us a Flickering Dreams total for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem of 8.5 out of 10, making it a cowabunga. I don't think they actually used the call cowabunga in the whole movie, did they?
Now you've got me wondering. I can't remember.
I don't remember them ever saying cowabunga, dudes.
I
Maybe in
highly
the sequel.
recommend double billing it with Barbie. I saw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles followed by Barbie. It was fantastic.
Followed by Barbie. All right. I hope you went into Barbie wearing a turtle suit.
Sadly not. Although we did have a turtle there. There was a turtle at the cinema taking pictures.
Okay. Good. So that was a surprising one, I have to say. Now, I'm not sure whether you've seen this last film that we're going to review on Apple TV Plus, but it's the Beanie Bubble. Okay. So in the Beanie Bubble, Ty Warner is a loud and blustering wannabe businessman who, through his relationships with three very clever women, builds an empire. This is the true story of the boom and bust of the Beanie Baby toy phenomenon in the early 1990s. Here's a clip.
This has always been my company.
Company we created together.
Why do you have to be so dramatic? I mean,
My salary's been reduced 75%.
yeah, I'm just doing what's necessary. You know, running the real, actual business over here.
My life is this company. I see where it's going. There are signs of real trouble.
Genius is 1% inspiration, 99% presentation.
That's not how the saying goes.
This is a very similar type of movie to Air with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon that we had 2 or 3 months ago when we actually started this podcast. I think it was one of the first films we reviewed, and absolutely love that. And I understand that the films Tetris and Blackberry, which I haven't seen, are also very similar, and they kind of celebrate, although perhaps that's the wrong word, the rampant commercialism in America during the 80s and the 90s. Now, I listened today to a little film review podcast called Kermode and Mayo's Take. I'm not sure whether you've heard of it. It's kind of...
Rings a bell.
It has a listenership. I mean, not like listenership to this podcast, I have to say, but they'll get there. They'll get better. And 2 ladies who were standing in for Commode and Mayo this week were Rihanna and Anna, and their take on it was quite down, and they called the film dull and boring because it had a focus on the early days of the internet and e-commerce. And I have to say, I absolutely disagree with that particular respect. That I found all of that stuff where they were creating a new website and they were launching on eBay, which was brand new, and they were using a promotional video on some newfangled thing called YouTube, which had just come out. I found that really great, and I felt that was kind of pioneer stuff that was kind of demonstrated in the movie, because the lady who's played by the actress Geraldine Viswanathan, hope I've pronounced that correctly, who is just about the best thing in the movie, I have to say. It's a fantastic performance. But she's actually based on the real person in Ty Warner's organization, who is kind of seen as the founder of e-commerce in America, using the internet for commercial activities before anybody else had done. So almost the film could and should have been focused on this lady's actual journey. But that was really good. And I found this really interesting. In terms of the other stars, there's Zach, complex names here, Zach Galifianakis. Galifianakis. I've never been able to pronounce his name.
I think
yes! That's it, you've got it.
I think.
Okay. I'll just edit you saying that into my bits there earlier.
No one will tell.
So like I said, Zach
Galifianakis
plays Ty Warner, who's an absolutely appalling monster of a man whose actions would have been massively detrimental to the success of his business, had it not been for some of these strong women working with him. And I thought he played it really well. I only actually really know him from his role in the Hangover movies. I thought he was really good, absolutely objectionable and obnoxious playing this person, but I thought he did it pretty well. And Elizabeth Banks, I've always had a real love-hate relationship with in terms of movies. I think she's been really, really good in films like Brightburn, the little sci-fi movie from a couple of years ago. Put her in films like Pitch Perfect 3, and she really grinds my gears no end. I really dislike what she does. I thought she was really good in this film, playing somebody standing up to Ty Warner. I've got a fly buzzing around me here in the room, attracted by the studio lights. And Sarah Snook, who's obviously just come out of Succession, which was brilliant, by the way. I just finished Succession this week, the end of series 4, and it's a magnificent series, and Sarah Snook is magnificent in it. She plays the role of a mother of these two girls who actually come up with the idea of the Beanie Babies and do a lot of the design of the toys. She doesn't really have very much to do in the film, which is a little bit of a downside for me, that she's standing on the bylines as things go on. On the downside, this film tries to do an Oppenheimer, but with two directors who don't have the skills of Christopher Nolan. The two directors are Kristen Gore and her husband, Zach Bissonette. And Kristen Gore is actually the daughter of Al Gore, the US vice president of a number of years ago. And this is their debut movie. So it's got a few rough edges. But this, doing an Oppenheimer, by that I mean they are constantly shifting backwards and forwards along across these different time periods, but not in a very constructive way for the movie. And it just ended up pissing me off that they kept zipping backwards and forwards and trying to be clever in that way. Whereas actually, I think the story as it's told about this guy was interesting enough if it had been told in a linear way and a little bit more of a uniform way through the thing. So that was my biggest downer on the film in general. But I was really surprised to find that Ty Warner, this businessman, is still alive, because I thought, what is he going to make of this film coming out and portraying him in this particular way? And actually, I've seen a quote from him released through the Ty Inc. company that says, well, he applauds the kind of construction and the makeup of the film and what they tried to do. I thought that's very magnanimous given the way it portrays him. So it's flawed. It's a flawed film, but I ended up actually really enjoying watching it despite its flaws. So I gave this one a rather generous, I think, 7 out of 10. And it's only me doing this, so it really needs somebody else to watch it and rate it. But that, in my book, makes it another.
Yeah, I'll definitely keep an eye out for that one.
So those are the 3 films we've looked at tonight. In terms of any other business, I thought it was interesting, given that we've just come out of Barbenheimer week, just to do a little analysis, which I did on my BBC Radio Solent programme last week, about how these different films are actually performing at the box office. And what I did was, if you assume that the production cost of the film is only half of the amount of money it has to make before it's seen as a financial success, and I've seen some other multipliers that says it's more than that, it's like 2.5 times or even 3 times the cost, then how do these films kind of look in terms of a payback on return on investment? And running away with it at the moment is, obviously, what do you think?
I'm hoping you're going to say Barbie.
I am going to say Barbie. So Barbie had a budget production cost of $100 million, and at the time of this podcast, it has made $780 million at the worldwide box office. So that was made for $100 million. So if you double that and make it $200 million, and say it's made 780 million on 200 million, that gives you a percentage return on investment, if you like, of 390%. And that's
It's mental.
still raking in money. It's bound to break the $1 billion mark, isn't it? Because it's still packing out cinemas, even in its second week. So 390%, if you remember that number. Oppenheimer has currently made 406 million on a 100 million budget. And again, I was surprised it's only got a 100 million budget. So that gives you a return on investment of 203%. Next up on the list is The Little Mermaid, which has made 564 million on a 250 million budget. So that's 113% on that metric. So still a financial success. Up yours, racists. And of the other films, quite interesting here. So Elemental has made 396 million on a 200 million budget. So it's just about there, 99%. Mission Impossible, struggling a little bit.
Wow.
It's only been out, 3 weeks. It's 448 million on a 290 million budget. So a much more expensive production cost. So that's at 77%. That's up from 67% last week. And I actually think now that the Barbenheimer phase has passed, I think people may go back and see Mission Impossible at the cinema. For those who came to the cinema and said, actually, we really quite liked going to the cinema last week. What should we go and see this week? And hopefully Mission Impossible may pick up some accelerating business through that route. The real loser of the summer is unfortunately Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, because that has only made 356 million on its 295 million budget. So the most expensive film of the lot, which puts it only at 60% of being seen as a financial success, which is a shame because I thought it was a good film. I enjoyed the film as a adventure. You put it on the list against Barbie, Oppenheimer, Mission Impossible, you have to say it's probably the fourth place out of that list of 4 big blockbuster films. But it's still not a bad film at all. Yeah. Interestingly, we were just talking about Talk to Me. That has made $10 million after 3 days on its $4.5 million budget. So it's already at 111%. So it just shows if you find a nice low budget film and you do a great job at delivering it, boy, the rewards for those guys are significant. So that was my first bit of AOB, just as a little bit of interest as to where the summer blockbusters are going. But the last 2 weeks have certainly been a very good week for cinema in general, as we said last week.
I'm a little concerned though. I would say Barbie and Oppenheimer are just dominating the screens at the moment. And so Friday the 4th is Joyride is supposed to come out, and I saw the unlimited screening of it that we had, the secret screening.
We'll talk about that one next week.
Yeah,
I was very much hoping
to see it again. Our cinema only has one screening, and I'm not even sure if it's all week, but it's at 8:30 at night. And
oh no,
I'm too old to go out to movies at that time of night.
Yeah, that's the only film of any significance I think coming out on Friday, though, isn't it?
Bob.
Oh, I've upset her.
Don't
because what else? What else is coming out?
Well,
Emma, what else is coming out on Friday?
I mean, I wasn't even going to go to the cinema to watch it, to be honest. You know, it's just a little film called The Meg 2, The Trench. I mean, everyone who knows me from Twitter will know I am that shark lady. I've had people wishing me happy Meg week. As soon as I love the people I've got on Twitter, they're amazing. Like, as soon as the first trailer was released, my phone was exploding. I was like, what on earth is happening? And it was like everyone going, oh my God, Emma, have you seen the trailer? What do you think? I am very excited.
I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are. Well, you can get to introduce the clip next week. I think that's the most honourable thing we can do.
Thank you kindly.
You can have the introduction of the clip.
Yeah, I think it was when the trailer was released. I googled how many days it was until obviously it was coming out, and I happened to notice, because obviously I track everything on Letterboxd, that it coincided magnificently with how many times I had watched the first one to then coincide with a big, a landmark watch. So, as of this point, I have seen the Meg, the original, 298 times.
You are joking.
I am not joking.
Seriously.
Yeah. So
seriously.
I love shark films in general, and you need treatment. I say this frequently. I do need help, but it is the first shark film, like proper shark film, that I had ever seen at the cinema. And I think that whole big screen experience just really just solidified that for me. And So I saw the Meg 6 times at the cinema, which was like breaking records for me at that point.
Well, the important thing to remember, it's not really about the shark.
Is it not?
Yes, it is about the shark.
I was going to say, I didn't get the memo.
I'm joking. That's a famous quote about Jaws. Yeah.
I'm just
from the good Dr. Commode. Yeah.
I'm just really looking forward to seeing, because the book, the first film is nothing like the first book, apart from the fact it's got some characters with the same names and a big shark. And actually, bits of the trailer for 2 are like the opening to the first book. So I'm interested to see what crossover we get with that, and because the story of the book is very good.
Well, we'll look forward to that.
It's going to be
Friday,
a very long podcast recording if you let me just keep waffling.
Oh, okay. We might have to edit you down.
Potentially.
Edit you down. Yeah. Jolly good. Okay, so that is our Flickering Dreams for this week. My thanks to Emma. If you like what she thinks about sharks, you can find her Twitter rantings and ravings 298 times on Emma at the Movies on Twitter. And if you want to read my film reviews, I'm on onemansmovies.com, and we will see you next week, when hopefully we'll be joined by Scott and or Andy as well. But we're in the summer vacation period, so who knows? Thanks for listening / watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Thank you so much for listening or watching Flickering Dreams. You can find the video version on YouTube and the audio version on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to subscribe so you can get each of the weekly episodes as they are released. We'll see you at the movies.